Sasha Burns is a consultant neurosurgeon who had to give up her job. She may or not speak about it, for the reasons that we're all here. She says she's now a trade unionist. I don't think she is. But I asked her, what shall I introduce you as? But that's what she told me, so that's what I do. Sasha, welcome. Very unusual, that. But,
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. And it's great to see so many people here, and of course all the people who are tuning in online as well. It's just fantastic to be here. And also, just in case people were wondering, I'm taller than you think I am on Zoom. Just to clarify that. So, the case of the radiologist, +2. So this case is very straightforward with this particular member. One incident. It's a very clean case. There's nothing much has happened as such at the moment. And as a result of the one episode, there have been multiple and escalating detriments, very common, I suppose. During the presentation, if I was able to have done it, I would have created cards so you could all play playbook bingo. For those of you who've been through this, you'll be like, that's me, that's me, that's me. It's the same thing time and time again. So the radiologist will be referred to as C, as in claimant and the trust, and the other employees will largely be referred to as R for respondent. So essentially, C noticed that a tumour had been missed in a young patient during a previous examination that was done by a colleague, Dr. A. And as is normal, this particular incident was brought up in a meeting where you're supposed to bring up issues where lesions on scans have been missed. It's common, it's normal, it's what's meant to happen. That particular child later died because the lesion was missed in a scan that was done a year earlier. A year goes past, the tumour had grown enormously, and the child died. So instead of being investigated, of course, the doctor then basically threw further allegations at C. So Dr. A shot back at C big time. C's appraisal was delayed, putting their GMC registration in jeopardy. PPA was contacted. C was not informed about what was going on, and the counter allegations for Dr. A were presented to the PPA. C had apparently not undertaken mandatory training. I had to laugh when I read that, to be honest. Hands up, who hasn't done their mandatory training when they're meant to have done it. And C also had not had their appraisal, which is another common thing that we find is used as delay in allowing appraisal to go ahead, or somehow twisting the appraisal so that, for example, the multi-source feedback is not as good as it might be because you're forced to add colleagues or doctors into that multi-source feedback who may not support you. It's a deliberate act I've seen happen before. So what happened next? Well, so essentially, C had immediate action taken against them even before the PPA's advice was received by the trust, although we have seen on many occasions that whatever the PPA say, the trusts do their own thing anyway. It's just a tick box exercise. Yes, PPA was consulted, brackets, no, we didn't pay any attention to what they actually said. The trust refused to delay any meeting until the BMA representation could be organised. And again, it's another one of those ambush meetings. You don't need to bring anyone with you, just come, it's fine. Then the allegations that were supposedly made against C were not made clear. Another thing that we see really commonly. What is it that I'm supposed to have done wrong? Can you not, what is it? It is only just and fair that I should be able to prepare my defence by understanding what it is I'm supposed to have done wrong. But somehow it was impossible for R to do that. So an MHPS process was declared, but it wasn't really very clear. So unsurprisingly, there were no real clear allegations. There was no actual letter that you're supposed to receive 7 days after having the meeting that basically clarifies exactly what's going on. However, C was removed from many professional meetings, wasn't chairing things anymore, had detriments, was effectively demoted. So C went on long-term sick leave due to work-related stress. the concern that C raised that was so clear and so obvious was never actually investigated in any way. And apparently there were a load of allegations that were fired against C. C then referred Dr. A and the tribe, which is, the mafia that does exist within hospitals. We all know it. If you haven't read The Chimp Paradox, you must read it. It's a brilliant book that does describe about how people create tribes around them. So Dr. A was a very good leader of a strong tribe, and they were all referred to the GMC. The GMC never discussed anything with C about the referral that C had made, but did discuss a lot of things with the trust, and the trust said that everything was okay. So C then raised concerns about a further tumour in a different patient. And again, when when the restrictions had been put on to C were dropped, they were then reinstated just as soon as C said something else. So then C had been off sick by this stage for 10 months and had remained employed, but nonetheless, things were looking a little shaky. Was going to have a return to work meeting, but then this was then changed into a disciplinary meeting without any notice. So C had made allegations about these very clear tumours that had been missed. It was undeniable. The trust completely refuses to accept that or to investigate it in any way. In the meeting, C was shouted at, interrupted, not allowed to speak. C had raised a lot of other issues about the further detriments that had occurred and was told that we're not going to investigate those. C had a really good multi-source feedback, but that was then completely ignored. And the trust just completely refused to acknowledge the fact that C had been off sick. So this MHPS investigation kind of was and kind of wasn't happening, because it actually hadn't been formally instigated, but on the other hand, it was very much a dark cloud over the shoulder. So, of course, the trust did another thing, which they often like to do, which was to get an external reviewer, a doctor, not a HR company or whatever else, but to investigate C's own practice. Of course, why not? Let's dig up some problems that C's had. But actually, unfortunately for the trust, the external reviewer did not find any problems with C's practice. So now what? Now what is the trust going to do? So C was never able to actually discuss anything that the reviewer had said in any way, which does in fact breach the MHPS policy, but there kind of wasn't an MHPS investigation going on. And again, the trust just doesn't respond at all to C's current state of mind. So at the moment, C is still employed, largely, I think, due to intervention because of her work-related stress diagnosis has actually placed her within the disability range of the Equality Act 2010. So that's allowed her to negotiate being still at work, but has very strong restrictions on their practice. And really has suffered hugely psychologically and has developed what is now a formally diagnosed condition. C's filed an ET1 for detriments short of dismissal, having made that very clear protected disclosure, and is working towards their ET. Even though C referred Dr. A and the tribe to the GMC has never actually discussed anything with C, only ever with the trust, and everything seems to be fine. So, what about the +2? So, Dr. A is responsible wholly or in part for the demise of 2 other consultants. One was dismissed from their trust for gross misconduct following an MHPS investigation, and the other was, and this is interesting actually, was placed under an MHPS investigation, but actually managed to get another job in another trust during their MHPS investigation, which I would say probably is fairly unusual and actually quite revealing, because when they went for their pre-interview visits and so on in the other trust, they had to admit to what was going on. And I think most of us would think that if you're in the middle of an investigation, there's no way you're going to be able to get another job somewhere else. But actually what they were told was, oh yeah, no, we understand that things go on. So they were successful in getting another job and resigned. So the question I have is, what are we going to do about Dr. A? Because this is somebody who has managed to destroy 3 doctors effectively. And how can we tackle that person, given that they've already been referred to the GMC just by the one doctor, and the GMC hasn't really taken the bait. So what to do next? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sasha. Would you like I think those are pretty appalling story, however you look at it. And you notice another common theme is that management does not, in these bad cases, investigate the claim. They turn their investigations on the claimant. And this is one of the rule 1. Now, this is now open to you, the audience, for question and answer. So please feel free. There's no big brother looking at you, and if he is, he'll enjoy it. So feel free to ask the questions. This is your moment, if you have them. Thanks, Guy. You're going to be our BBC man. Thank you. Thank you. Who? Please announce your name clearly.
Yeah.
Preferably stand up if you want to command the audience, if you can.
Thank you. I'm Aruna Abhyankar, and my question is for both of you. I'm a pediatric surgeon. That the concerns and allegations that are being made that you recurrently mentioned, we all know that there is no reason or there is no requirement for declaration of truth or reasonable investigation or basic assessment of facts done by the managers before they levy those allegations. Isn't that correct? A theme that they are not then accountable, that when they spoke with PPA or they spoke with anybody else, they have to have done some homework about the allegations. They can just take a line, a statement against you and subject you to investigations. Is that a fair summary of situation?
Thank you, Aruna.
Thank you.
Can you answer?
From my perspective, and being very brief, the initial allegations against me of bullying, harassment and undermining behaviour were not upheld in my initial investigation, which kind of scuppered the whole case on me, really. But that wasn't sufficient. I mean, I thought that was going to be the end of it. But so I went back to work, and it was pretty obvious that the senior management had decided that they wanted me out anyway. So they then manufactured a whole load of other accusations against me. The PPA side of things was interesting. In my case, from the evidence that came out in my employment tribunal, the trust used PPA as a kind of a shield, really. It was basically, oh, we've discussed all this with PPA. Yeah, but what have you discussed with them? What have you discussed with them? What have you told them? Because they certainly didn't tell them the truth. So it's, oh, we've okayed all this with PPA and they said we're doing the right thing. Well, you didn't, did you? And the other thing about PPA is my understanding is that the complainant, as in me, should have been shown all of the documentation. I wasn't. So it's another, so much of the way you're managed in this is there are guidelines and rules and what I thought were laws, nonsense. So it doesn't, when it comes to the legal process, it doesn't carry any weight at all. It's a joke.
Yeah, if I can just
Yes.
add to that. I mean, I think that there's a trust and verify kind of element to it. You know, it's like, so in my case, for example, there was a new medical director. And so the senior colleagues approached the new medical director and said, oh, there's this terrible doctor who's done X, Y, and Z. And the new medical director shot from the hip and said, well, we'll get them then. And it's like, well, hang on, if you'd actually checked, you would have found that what you've been told is not true. So I would say that basically there's very rarely ever any investigations done before anything is instigated.
Another rule, you see, you don't show the persecuted the documents. if you're asking yourselves why there aren't any managers to answer this, they were invited. Now, any more questions? Yes? Can you? Thank you.
My name is Vito. Can you use the microphone, please?
Use the microphone, else you won't be recorded.
Right. So my name is Vito Pavlak. I'm a retired circuit judge because of age, and I'm now a barrister again. And as a spectator of what you're all talking about, I really don't understand why, assuming that the union has enough members, why it doesn't circulate your members with advice pre-whistleblowing. If you intend to whistleblow, please come to see us, because we will advise you, and also we will send someone to support and help you as it all starts, when you press the red button and the whole thing begins.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have, in fact, the HCSA has just circulated a playbook. I don't know if anyone's got a copy of it that they can show, but we have circulated exactly that, but we've only literally just circulated it. But thank you.
Online on the website.
Yes, yeah.
Can I add something to that? Basically, I want to know. Basically, when you do your duty and you do something about something irregular, you feel it's part of what you should do every day. You are not actually considering yourself a whistleblower because that's normal practice. And the GMC says do that because you need to protect your patients. So to us, when we blew the whistle, we didn't know we were whistleblowing.
So, may I say something? I'm Andrew Wardley from the Christie Hospital. I'm a whistleblower.
Just a moment. David, this will be the last part of this Q&A. You'll have to do it at tea time. Sorry, because we have got a lot to get through, and I'm sure everybody will be happy to speak to everybody else. Please, David, the last question.
To be told, if I may, interesting point. The only problem is there are thousands of whistleblowers. You could never cover it.
I think we thank our brave speakers for coming. It's not easy, nor is it easy necessarily to persuade them. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I haven't got a lovely bottle of gin to give you or something, but you earned it. Thank you.